You know, Roblox Doors has been out for actually a couple months already, and there are still millions of new players that get exposed to the game every single week. But what about the old OG players? What have they seen that newer players have never heard of? Well, these are 10 things that only Doors OGs remember. Are you a Doors OG? Let us know your memories down below, and let's go back in time for a bit. Number 1, auto crouch. Only the absolute Doors OGs will remember this one. But when the game first released, going through the Seek chase was actually pretty terrifying, considering it was many people's first times. But the developers did make it easier for everyone back then. They actually programmed auto-crouching whenever you had to duck underneath the rubble of the chase in order to get away from Seek, so all you had to worry about was just aiming your camera to run away. The developers actually later on changed this to where you had to manually duck in order to progress through, in order to make the chase more engaging and less brain dead. But it was a small and interesting feature that many old players do remember. Number 2, speed exploit. Oh yeah, I actually remember covering this one in older videos, funnily enough. But when the game was just about a week old, there was a huge speed exploit that was found, and it caused players to be able to complete the game and run at vitamin pace levels for the whole entire match. Basically how it worked was you'd have a friend run up ahead while a player stays behind, and if the player in the front left the server, the player behind would be granted with a catch-up speed bonus and be stuck with it the whole entire match. It's basically because the servers still thought that the front-running player was still in the game, which grants the speed boost to the other players even though they've actually left. As you can tell, many players were using this trick, especially when submitting speedruns, but the developers were able to patch this up in just a couple days. I guess you'd have to be an OG to have actually been able to try it out yourself though. Number 3, instant halt. Everyone probably already knows how Halt already works, but for newer players, whenever you enter the entity's room, it turns to a dark blue hue, followed by a couple seconds in order to get you ready to encounter Halt. But back then, the game didn't really give you a heads up like that. In just the first day of release, OG players were forced to reckon with a much harder version of Halt, as the developers didn't even give the entity any delay at all when entering its room, causing many players to automatically take damage upon entering, which was kind of annoying to say the least. But of course, this was patched just a day after, along with some other quality of life things, leading to Halt being the first ever entity to officially get demoted in some sort of way. Number 4, old shop. Oh yeah, only the oldest players will definitely remember this. But during the first 2 weeks when the game came out, the shop was actually a pretty barren and super unused place. Virtually no YouTubers have ever even showcased the shop in their original videos, as there was not really a point at the time, but I was able to find this screenshot of essentially the first shop menu that was created for the game, and it's definitely quite a surprise. No code system at all to enter, as that was added later in the game's history, and no UGC as well, leading to a pretty small menu to say the least. Definitely glad they were able to spice things up, especially with the game becoming more popular. Number 5, vitamin glitch. Being similar to the speed exploit that we discussed earlier, the vitamin glitch was also a very well-known trick that many older players used during the game, though it was fixed super quickly right after. Basically what players had to do for this one was time their vitamin usage just right as they were entering inside a closet, and they would be granted an internal speed boost that would last for the whole game. As you can tell, the developer shut this glitch down in literally a couple hours, but it was interesting to know that more glitches were out there. Honestly, it made the vitamins the most OP item in the shop for a time, if you really thought about it. Number 6, darkness. Not many players would have even noticed this, and much less actually talked about it as well, but during their initial day release for the game was noticeably darker and, quite frankly, scarier as well. A side-by-side comparison can clearly show this compared to modern-day gameplay, as it seemed to have just had a slight shadow over the whole entire game back then. The developers, just a day after, ended up bringing the brightness up again, but many players do miss the old charm that the initial day version brought to the table. Number 7, no remorse. Currently within the game, if a player dies to an entity and decides to revive back into the game, they will have a 15-second grace period where if they ended up for some unknown reason dying again, they will not be charged the revive, which was actually a great move by the developers. Of course, OG players had probably lost a couple revives that way, as they only implemented this in later small updates for the game, but you could be lucky like Creecraft when they decide to not charge a revive from them as well. Number 8, old glitch. This was a popular one, but do you remember the old glitch entity that was in Roblox stores? During the first couple weeks of release, again, the entity only functioned as a catcher-upper, bringing players back to the front of the pack once again. This also led to the older achievement badge and icon being different, describing the event as well. Later, when the entity essentially ended up getting promoted to failsafe duties attached, the achievement again changed to the one that suited them better. One of the few times where I actually prefer an update over the original, crazily enough. Number 9, player sizes. Currently, if you notice within the game, everyone is practically at the same height and width, presumably in order to make the gameplay experience nice and fair for all. But during the initial release, it wasn't always like that. Players could have actually made their Roblox avatars bigger and smaller, causing all sorts of bugs and trouble within the game. This obviously brought a quick fix just a day after, but it was funny to see the sizes of some of these avatars, especially in smaller rooms. And number 10, I bet a lot of you guys would be surprised by this one. It was the silent era. These were players that played the game way before things started to go mainstream and get popular towards the later part of August. These are what I would consider Doors OGs in my books, but do you remember some of these? Comment below and goodbye.